Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and share.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. So we're going to continue with chapter 2. Okay, but now we're going to proceed to 2.3, cell group into tissue. And for this, I will divide into two. The first part, we're going to discuss about the animal tissue. And second part, we're going to discuss about the plant tissue. Let's start with the plant tissue. So here, okay, for plant tissue, as you can see, it can be divided into four types, which is epithelial tissue, nerve tissue, muscle tissue, and connective tissue. And before that, okay, based on organization, we know the cell, okay, will group into tissue. Okay, and then tissue, each tissue may have their specific function. So the four types of animal tissue is epithelial tissue, nerve tissue, muscle tissue, and connective tissue. First, the epithelial tissue. The main function is for protection, and they have two criteria here. Okay, according to the number of layer, the name, if the single layer, we call it as simple, and if the tissue have multiple layer, we call it as ratified. And then for the cell shape, okay, has three shape: squamous, okay, the flat, cuboidal, the shape is cube like shape, okay, and then the columnar, the shape is elongated. So let's discuss about the type of epithelial tissue. So here, to give the name for the epithelial tissue, the first look at the arrangement, okay, either single layer or multiple layer. If single layer, simple, and then look at the shape. Okay, for example here, the shape is flattened shape. Okay, so this is referred to squamous. So the name of this tissue is simple squamous. Okay, this one, okay, one layer, simple, and then the shape is cuboidal. So the name is simple cuboidal. And this one, still one layer, okay, of cell, and then the shape, the cell is elongated, so it's represent columnar. So the name of this tissue is simple columnar. Then for this, you can see it is multi-layer here. Then the name is stratified squamous. Okay, here is not the epithelial cell, this one is membrane. Okay, so for simple squamous, the structure, the cell are flattened with central nucleus. Here, normally one cell, one nucleus. Then distribution, it will line the blood vessel and also at the air sac of lung. So as we know, the blood vessel on the lung involved in diffusion. So to allow certain substance to cross the blood vessel or to across the lung, the air sac of lung easily, so it required a very thin epithelial tissue. So that's why the tissue is simple squamous, because the squamous cell is flattened and then the arrangement is only one cell thick, so it will allow diffusion occur efficiently. And then for simple cuboidal, the structure is cuboidal shape, which is look like die shape. And then look at the nucleus. Each cell, the nucleus located at the center. Then for the distribution, the simple cuboidal, they involve in secretion and also absorption. So we can found in the gland. Okay, example, the thyroid gland, and then our certain duct. Okay, and also our kidney tubules, because our kidney tubules going to conduct secretion and also absorption. Next is the simple columnar. So this simple columnar, the cell shape, the cell is elongated from the basement membrane. So here is the basement membrane. And then the cell nucleus is found lower in the cell and closer to the cell base. Okay, so look at the nucleus. So the nucleus, the position of nucleus selalunya berada di bahagian bawah. Okay, and then the function of these simple columna also for secretion and absorption, and it can be found in lining of stomach, lining of the small intestine, and lining of fallopian tube. Okay, some of the columna, simple columna, so they may have cilia. So these cilia will help in the movement, and for stratified, so pseudo stratified columna, also the simple columna, they may have a cell called goblet cell, um, glass shaped cell, which the function is to secrete mucus. And then this is stratified squamous. The cell has several layers, and then the lower cell are cuboidal and actively divide. So you can see here, at the basement, attached to the membrane basement, is cuboidal shape, and then a multiple layer of squamous cell. And then the function is to provide protection from abrasion. So that's why the stratified squamous can be found in the outer skin, lining of mouth, esophagus, anus, and vagina. Means dia akan lining dekat bahagian-bahagian yang mudah untuk kena geseran. Alright. Second tissue for animal is the nerve tissue. Main function of nerve tissue: receive, processing, and transmit of information. So nerve tissue, the main function is to receive, processing, and transmission of information. So this is a structure of neuron, because neuron is the basic unit in the nerve tissue. Okay, so as you have learned in your secondary school, neuron may have three main components. Okay, the cell body, the dendrite, and also the axon. The dendrite is the parts that carry impulse toward the cell body. Okay, and then at the cell body, it contains of nucleus and other organelle. And here is the axon, which carry impulse away from cell body. And at the axon, okay, some axon will be lined with the uh, electrical insulator layer called myelin sheath. The gap here is called as nodes of Ronvier. Okay, so types of neuron have three types: sensory neuron, motor neuron, and also interneuron. So for sensory neuron, the function is to carry impulse from the receptor to the central nervous system. And then for the motor neuron, it will carry impulse from the central nervous system to the effector, for example, the muscle. The interneuron will integrate the impulse received from the sensory neuron. Next, we have the third tissue is the muscle tissue. The function is to specialize to contract. So we have three tissue here, three muscle tissue: the skeletal or striated muscle, smooth muscle, and the cardiac muscle. Look at the structure. Okay, for skeletal muscle, the structure is long, cylindrical, and has striated, so have multiple nuclei in each cell. But for smooth muscle, the shape of the cell is spindle. Then each cell have only single nucleus. For cardiac muscle, okay, it's look like skeletal muscle, but if you see more carefully, for cardiac muscle, it has branch. Okay, not for striated muscle. Okay, for cardiac muscle, the structure of muscle has branch. And generally, for each cell have only single nucleus. Okay, but for skeletal muscle, usually multiple nucleus. Both is striated. Okay, but this one with branch, this one is no branch. This one usually multiple nuclei, and for cardiac muscle, usually single nuclei. Next, the location. Okay, for skeletal muscle attached to the skeleton, and the function is to help movement. Example, walking. Okay, so involve in voluntary action. But for smooth muscle, the location, it will be in the wall of digestive tract, urinary bladder, and also the arteries. So the function is movement of substance in movement of body. Okay, and it involve in involuntary action, means di luar kawalan. Kita tak boleh kawal. Okay, and then the cardiac muscle. Okay, it will line at wall of heart, and from the wall of heart that help in pumping of blood. So also involved in involuntary action. So the third animal tissue is muscle tissue. We have three. Sorry, the last one is connective tissue. So we have three types of connective tissue, which is the compact bone, hyaline cartilage, and blood. So here is the compact bone and hyaline cartilage. Okay, make sure you know the structure of compact bone and the hyaline cartilage. Able to know what is mean by the central canal, canali, laguna, lamella, and then look at the hyaline cartilage. It has chondrocyte, chondroblast, lacunae, chondrines. Okay, cell is for compact bone. The cell is called as osteoblast. But for hyaline cartilage, the cell is called as chondrocyte. Okay, for compact bone, the cells are arranged in concentric layer or lamella. For hyaline cartilage, the cells are scattered throughout the tissue. For compact bone, lacunae are interconnected by canaliculi. So here is canaliculi, here is the lacunae. So the lacunae is interconnected by the canaliculi. Why? In hyaline cartilage, the lacunae are not connected. So here is lacunae. So boleh nampak lacunae tidak berhubung to each other. Then matrix of the compact bone is composed of hard mineral and collagen. But for matrix of this hyaline cartilage is chondrine. Okay, which is made from chondroitin sulfate. For this compact bone, it has blood vessel, nerve, and limb. But for hyaline cartilage, there is no blood vessel, nerve, and limb. For compact bone, the main function is to give mechanical support to the body. Why? For hyaline cartilage, the function is to give flexible support to the body. For blood, okay, blood have three components of blood. The erythrocyte, which is the red blood cell, it involved in transport of oxygen. Okay, the characteristic of red blood cell, it is biconcave shape, and they have no mitochondria. They have a very flexible and thin and flexible shape and thin. Okay, and then this is the leukocyte, white blood cell. So the major function is for defend the body against harmful bacteria and other microorganisms. And this is the platelet, which the main function is
Thank you for
very
watching. See you in
important
the
in blood
next video.
clotting.
Bye. Right, hi, Assalamualaikum. So now let's proceed to 2.3 plant tissue. So plant tissue, it has two types, meristemic tissue and also permanent tissue. So let's take a look for meristemic tissue. So the cell structure for meristem tissue, the cell with the thin wall have central large nucleus, dense cytoplasm, and have small vacuole. And meristem tissue, it composed of cells that actively divide. So the cell shape is rectangular and the cell arrangement is closely packed. For meristem tissue, as you can see here, we have two types, the apical meristem and lateral meristem. The difference is the location and difference in function. So for apical meristem, the distribution at the root tips and shoot bud. Okay, for lateral meristem, it is located in the outer edge of stem and root. So since the apical meristem dia berada di hujung akar dan hujung pucuk, so the function is responsible in a primary growth. Okay, dari segi kepanjangan dan ketinggian pokok. Okay, kepanjangan akar dan ketinggian pokok. For lateral meristem, since dia berada di sekeliling akar dan juga sekeliling batang, so it's responsible in secondary growth, mean the growth in term of the diameter. Okay, next for the permanent tissue, we have two types here. The ground tissue, which the main function is for packing and support, and then the vascular tissue, the main function involved in transport. So let's take a look for the ground tissue first. So for ground tissue has three types, which is the parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma. And you need to know the difference between all these three. Okay, first, make sure you know to identify which one is parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma. Sebab banyak soalan yang minta kamu identify. So look at the cell shape of parenchyma. The cell is isodiametric shape or elongated. Okay, and then the cell arrangement is loosely packed. So the cell will have, the parenchyma may have large intercellular air space. Gap between cell ni, ini kita panggil sebagai intercellular air space. And for the cell wall structure, parenchyma may have thin primary cell wall. And the distribution of parenchyma, okay, dia ada banyak at cortex and the pit. The function, okay, specific function for parenchyma involved in food storage and also carry out photosynthesis, because parenchyma may have chloroplast. Okay, for the collenchyma, the shape is polygon and elongated. The cell arranged is closely packed with no or have little intercellular air space. So maksudnya dekat sini, shape dia hampir sama, memanjang panjang, tapi dia lebih panjang, ini lebih bulat isodiametric, ini lebih memanjang elongated, but then the cell is closely packed. So kalau nak ada air space pun hanyalah kecil ataupun sangat sedikit. And then in terms of the cell wall, for collenchyma, it has unevenly thickened of primary cell wall. So ada bahagian yang nipis, ada bahagian yang tebal. Okay, that will be the best indicator, okay, untuk kita tengok itu sebagai collenchyma. And this distribution of collenchyma is at below epidermis, membranes of leaf and leaf petioles. So contohnya macam tangkai bunga raya yang warna hijau tu, itu kita panggil petioles, banyaklah disupport oleh collenchyma. So the specific function for collenchyma to provide flexible support for young parts of non-woody plant. Okay, and the last one for the ground tissue is the sclerenchyma. Okay, so sclerenchyma has two types, fiber and also the sclera. Fiber, the structure of the tissue is elongated, but for sclera is irregular. And for sclerenchyma, it is the cell arranged closely packed with no intercellular air space. Means that dia lebih padat, structurenya arrange lebih padat compared kepada collenchyma. And in terms of the structure of the cell wall, for sclerenchyma, it has secondary cell wall with lignin. So boleh nampak, kalau kamu nampak ada sel yang bergaris-garis dekat area cell wall dia, itu menunjukkan adalah sclerenchyma, dan garis-garis itu menunjukkan that represent lignin. Okay, so the distribution of sclerenchyma, dia ada dekat kulit kacang. Okay, dan kalau contoh macam kita makan buah pear, kita akan tergigit yang keras, so itu sebenarnya adalah sclera. Dan sabut kelapa, itu sebenarnya adalah sclerenchyma juga, tapi dia adalah jenis fiber. So The main function for sclerenchyma, they will provide strength and support in plant. So from this table, we know the difference between the parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma, and also the characteristic for each. If the question asks you describe collenchyma, so here is the characteristic to describe describe collenchyma. Same goes to parenchyma and also sclerenchyma. So last part here is the vascular tissue, which we know the function involved in transport. So we have two types of vascular tissue, the xylem and also the phloem. So since primary school, we know that the xylem, the main function is to conduct water and also dissolve material upwards from root into the shoot. So it has two components, the trachea and also the vessel element. So look at the structure of trachea and vessel element. Hopefully you can identify, okay, which one is trachea, which one is vessel element. Trachea is more long and thin with the tapered end, but for vessel element, the structure is more wider, shorter, and the end is less tapered compared to the trachea. Okay, and the phloem, the function is to transport food made in mature leaf to the roots and non-photosynthetic part. Okay, so the component also to the safe tube and also the component cell. So here is the safe tube. This is the safe plate, and then this is the component cell. So the safe tube is actually the dead cell sebab dia tak ada nucleus. So function of the safe tube involve in conduct sugar in form of sucrose in solution and provide structural support. For the component cell, the function is to help load the sugar into safe tube element. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video. Bye.